Chapter 10 The Discovery. The Unearthing. They rushed to the site. A small celebration had broken out amongst the crew. Ben, however, walked straight to a tent nearby where a tech team had moved his equipment. He stared at the map he had sketched from Lyra's memory. The foundation stone is here, which means Lyra's house must be. What are you looking for, Doctor? And Nana's voice startled him. She had followed him into the tent. How could he explain? I'm trying to figure out where she would have hidden the stone, he murmured, thinking aloud. After she came back from the mound, I lost connection then. I don't know what happened next. Did Maddox find out? Did she give it to Alara for safekeeping? Lyra? Maddox? Stone? Inanna asked, her brow furrowed in confusion. Ben ignored her, a new thought striking him with the force of a physical blow. He rushed outside, scrambled atop a mound of excavated rubble, and surveyed the dig site. There, he said, pointing. The mound is that way, which means the temple must be there. His eyes darted back and forth, building a virtual village on the empty sand. If Maddox reclaimed the stone, it would be in the temple relic chamber. He turned to Inanna, his eyes wide with purpose. I need you to take a team and start a new dig. Right there. Without hesitation, Inanna nodded and began issuing orders. Ben, meanwhile, jumped down into the first excavation pit, where the team was carefully brushing sand from the newly discovered foundation. He disregarded the careful protocols, digging with his bare hands. The stone, he muttered. The stone is all that matters. Marking! A worker shouted. Ben scrambled over. Etched into the stone lintel above what was once a doorway was a simple, stylized carving of a smooth, rounded stone, a symbol of the tears of the sky gods. I know this house, Ben whispered, a triumphant grin spreading across his face. He began pacing out distances, his steps precise. This is the widow's house, which means Lyra's dwelling is 20 paces north, and Alara's is 10 paces east of that. He pointed to two new spots in the empty desert. Stop digging here, he commanded the stunned crew. Start digging there, and there, ASAP. The Finding. Ben stood at the edge of the newly unearthed temple foundation, the morning sun already baking the desert floor. The dig site was a whirlwind of controlled chaos, but his focus was singular. The relics chamber is there, he said, pointing to a specific enclosure defined by the tops of ancient stone walls. Clear the sand. Start there. He left the team to their meticulous work and strode back to the main compound tent where Keats and his equipment were housed. The air inside was cool, a stark contrast to the oppressive heat. Keats, run the sequence again, Ben commanded as he sat down. I need to go back. See what happened after she touched the ship. The data packet from the initial connection is fundamentally corrupt, Ben, Keats replied, its synthesized voice calm as ever. Multicolored diagnostic streams flooded the monitor. The temporal sensory data is incomplete. I cannot replicate the connection. Something's missing, Ben muttered, echoing his AI. Find it. We need a key, a bridge between the data sets. And I think we're looking for it as we speak. My analysis suggests the initial event was an uncontrolled discharge of latent data from the artifact, Keats explained. The artifact's processing language is architecturally different from my own. To translate it would take weeks. To establish a stable connection, my theory suggests we would need a physical object that can act as a quantum resonator, a key to synchronize both timelines. The stone, Ben realized. Dr. Carter? Ben looked up to see Inanna standing in the tent's entrance, a tablet in her hand. Please, call me Ben, he said, shaking off his frustration. What is it, Inanna? She offered a small, encouraging smile. We're halfway down in the relic's chamber. We found pottery shards, some carved objects, but no sign of a stone yet. Keep digging, Ben said, a new resolve in his voice. Join me. Let's check on the dwellings. They walked to the other dig site, where the outlines of two primitive houses were now clearly visible. Here, Ben said, his voice dropping as he stepped into the space that was once Lyra's home. This is where they slept. And this was Rorik's room. He pointed to an adjacent ruin. Alara's house. The kitchen area was here. See the burn marks? She could have hidden it anywhere. As they were examining the site, the chief archaeologist, a grizzled man named Dr. Eris, approached them, his face grim. Ben, a word. What is it, Eris? The dispersal pattern of the debris, Eris said, pointing at the wider village site. It's not a natural collapse. It's not an earthquake. This was a concussive event, centered right here. Someone, or something, blew this village apart. Ben's mind raced. What happened after I left? Were they attacked? Before he could process the horrifying new mystery, a triumphant shout erupted from the temple dig site. Dr. Carter! We found it! They all ran, their feet kicking up dust as they converged on the temple. A worker was pointing into a newly cleared section of the relic's chamber. There, nestled amongst the other carved objects on what was once a stone shelf, was an unmistakably smooth, dark stone. Ben fell to his knees at the edge of the pit, taking a brush from the worker's hand. He began to clear away the remaining sand with a reverence that silenced the entire crew. He could have lifted the stone in one swift motion, but he couldn't. It was a delicate object, a precious link across thousands of years of frozen, dead silence. Finally, the stone was fully uncovered, resting in the harsh desert sun for the first time in millennia. It looked exactly as it had in Lyra's hand. Ben looked up at Caitlin, who had just arrived, her face a mask of awe. This is it, he said, his voice thick with emotion. This is the key. He reached down and carefully, gently lifted the stone. The moment his skin made contact, a final, missing fragment of the memory slammed into his consciousness. It wasn't a full sensory immersion like before, but a rapid, vivid flash of images and feelings. The end of Lyra's story. He saw Lyra, awakened by Rorik at the foot of the silent ship, her mind reeling. He saw their weary journey back to the village. He felt her frantic attempt to explain the impossible truth, only to be met with cold, fearful piety of her tribe. He watched, helpless, asthmatic, his face a grim mask of authority, seized the stone from her and returned it to its pedestal in the temple's relic chamber. He witnessed Lyra's tragic fate, stripped of her standing, her possessions, and her son's trust. She was declared a madwoman. He saw her wandering the village she had tried to save, an outcast whose mind was lost in the echo of the truth she had touched. The final image was of the village years later, burning, attacked by rebels from another tribe. They ransacked the dwellings for food and valuables, but in their ignorance left the holy stones untouched in the crumbling temple. The vision receded, leaving Ben on his knees, gasping, the stone cool and impossibly heavy in his palm. The chain of custody was complete. Now he understood not only how the stone got back to the temple, but why it had remained here, buried and waiting. I can't believe it, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. I saw it. I saw it all. He held it up, the smooth, dark surface seeming to drink the light. It's time, he said to the assembled team, his voice ringing with a newfound authority. We have the whole story. We have what we need. Let's see what it does. The experiment. The dig at the wreck had proceeded at a frantic pace. The ship's overall shape was now visible, a vast alien curve nestled in the ancient rock. The team had also cleared an area around what looked like a seamless recessed door. A hush fell over the site as Ben, flanked by Kalen, Inanna, and Dr. Eris, approached the vessel. We've heard about the stone's discovery, said the site's chief engineer, his voice filled with a reverence that had replaced his earlier skepticism. Ben nodded, carefully pulling the smooth black stone from its padded case. It felt cool and alive in his hand. This is it, he said, his voice low. This is the key. He walked slowly toward the ship's hull. As he drew closer, a low, resonant thrum began to emanate from the vessel, a sound felt more in the bones than heard with the ears. He was still 10 meters away when the recessed door began to retract. With a soft hiss of escaping pressure, a vertical line of light appeared, widening as the door slid silently into the hull. A cloud of cool, sterile air, smelling of ozone and long dormant machinery, billowed out. The entire crew froze, eyes wide, half expecting a ramp to lower and aliens to emerge. Ben, trembling with a mixture of terror and exhilaration, took a step forward. Ben, wait! Kalen's sharp command cut through his reverie. Security team first. Make sure it's safe. Ben nodded, shaken out of his trance. Kalen motioned her team forward. As they passed him, their tactical gear a stark contrast to the smooth alien hull, Ben looked at the stone in his hand. It recognized me, he thought. It recognized the key. Nearby, Inanna murmured, almost to herself. Or it recognized the specific vibrational signature of the stone. A user ID. A voice crackled over the radio. Clear. No life signs. Stable atmosphere. But the power core is active, ma'am. Ben looked at Kalen. Her face was a mask of cold professionalism, but he saw the fire of discovery in her eyes. She gave a single sharp nod. Permission granted. He stepped cautiously into the ship, finding himself enveloped within a short, curving tunnel. The walls seemed to pulse softly, exuding a dim, indirect light that bathed the space in a serene glow. This gentle illumination guided him toward the end of the tunnel, where it opened up into a small, windowless cockpit. At the center of this confined space stood a single ergonomic cradle, a sleek chair molded to support a body in perfect repose, as if it were cradling the occupant in a loving embrace. The cockpit was devoid of the usual technological clutter. There were no screens, no buttons, no visible interface to interrupt the sleek design. Ben's gaze swept over the minimalist interior until his eyes settled on a single, exquisitely shaped indentation on the chair's armrest. It was a socket, crafted with precision, and an exact match for the stone he carried. I need Keats, he demanded into his comms. A moment later, Inanna entered, carrying his hardened laptop. Here, she said, her voice a whisper of awe. Let's get you connected. As she hooked his laptop to the sensor array they'd brought inside, her voice came over his earpiece, now filled with a nervous energy. All connections are up and running. You are clear to go, Captain. Ben settled into the chair. He took a deep breath, then slowly slotted the stone into the socket. It clicked into place with a sound of profound finality. Instantly, the ship came alive. The humming intensified, and a series of soft chimes echoed through the cockpit. The door behind him began to buzz, sliding shut with an alarming speed. Inanna gasped and lunged for the opening, but it was too late. The door sealed with a solid, definitive thud, plunging the cockpit into near darkness, save for the faint glow of the walls. Ben was trapped. Outside, the crew scrambled, shouting reports. Through his earpiece, Ben could hear Kalen's calm, authoritative voice cut through the panic. Stand down. Give him time. He was gone for 11 minutes last time. But Ben barely heard her. His body went limp in the chair as the world dissolved around him.